Agustinians. I am Magracia along with CRISLYN Cutamora, EMICA Tipon, and GARYL LORO from BSPSY1A. Welcome to our art appreciation vlog. First things first, let us know what is an art. Art is a highly diverse range of human activities engaged in creating visual, auditory, or performed artifacts that express the author's imaginative or technical skill and are intended to be appreciated for their beauty or emotional power. Did you know that the oldest documented form of art is visual art? This includes painting, sculpture, architecture, and other visual medias. In accordance with this, our group will be featuring information about a painting, a sculpture, and an architecture of our choice. Now, let's get into it.
Good day everyone! Now we are here to show you one of the sculptures that are in Bacalau's TV. As you may know, sculpture speaks of many things. It can represent an idol or a god. It can be purely symbolic or practically used for decoration. There is Bao, the endowed Carabao, made by two Negrense artists whose name goes by Lisa de Leon Psycho, a mosaic artist, and Rafael Paeng Paderna, a sculpture. The Man and the Water Buffalo, made by Negrense artist sculpture Tiles Gerson, and the other one is a Woman and the Water Buffalo, made by the Italian artist Francisco Riccardo Monti. But for now, we will introduce to you the background of the monument known as Pagimudos or the Struggle, one of the masterpieces of Eduardo S. Castrillo. The Negros Occidental Park and Cultural Commission, along with the artist Eduardo S. Castrillo, are giving this to the Negros Sana as a cultural present. The monumental was completed by the artist over the course of 3 years, 1972 to 1975, under the administration of Provincial Governor Alfredo Montelibano Jr. Let's give a brief introduction about the sculpture of the Pagimudos before we go to the meaning and the representation of the monument. Eduardo Castrillo, born on October 31, 1942, is an award-winning Filipino sculptor. He was born in Santa Ana, Manila, the youngest of 5 children of Santiago Silva Castrillo, a jeweler, and Magdalena de los Santos, a leading actress in Zarzuelas and Holy Week pageant in Makati, Philippines. Castrillo was a Republic Cultural Heritage awardee. He is also a jewelry artist and a designer. Going back to the monument, which is Pagimudos, means struggle or to make one's way with difficulty. Since Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, the first Governor General of the Philippine Island, gave Cristobal Nunes an encomienda or assignment of our island, then known as Buglas, in 1571, life in Negros Occidental have been a perpetual struggle. The Buglasanan, who converted to Indians, experienced the encomenderos feudal rule.
Here are the struggles or the experiences of Negrosanon back then. The Battle of Negros was fought between the Spanish and Moro pirates from the year 1760 up to 1829. The pirates looted the property, raped women, burned the houses, killed some villagers, and brought back some captives as slaves for the Spaniards. There was the unification of Negros that paved the way for the birth of the Philippine Federal Republic. And then there was the Zarzuela Revolution of el 5 de Noviembre in 1898, when the Ilustrados learned from the Buena Familias, became disgusted in their friendship with the Friars and the Spanish officials. The Republic did not last long because there was the outbreak of Filipino-American War. The Republic of Negros was founded by the Hacenderos, supported by the Emilio Aguinaldo government. The Banditos fought hard against the American constabulary and wicked sugarcane planters. They were defeated in the infamous Battle of Gintabuan. On December 8, 1941, Pearl Harbor was bombed by the Japanese. The Battle of Patag claimed almost 11,000 lives, Japanese, Americans, and Filipinos. On August 30, 1945, Lieutenant General Kono officially surrendered to Americans. When President Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law on September 21, 1972, the sugarcane industry was hit very bad. There was the struggle from the oppressed massa and then the neglected sugarcane workers. Negros struggle did not end after the EDSA revolution and the exile of Marcos. Life in many haciendas is still bad. Many of the third and fourth generation of hacenderos do not know how to manage their hacienda. Tangi Modus Monument is always there, and Ed Castrillo reminds us that the twisted and deformed human parts that we see are us, the Negresanons.
Leonardo da Vinci Last Supper is among the most famous painting in the world. In its monumental simplicity, the composition of the scene is masterful. The power of its effect comes from the striking contrast with the attitudes of the 12 disciples as counterpoise to Christ. The Last Supper was an intricate work completed by Leonardo da Vinci. This painting depicts the shock and horror of the 12 disciples, knowing that one of them was going to betray Jesus Christ. The work took years to complete, and attempts to salvage for the future generations to enjoy have taken centuries. But what makes Da Vinci's version so special is that it captures the high tension of a particular scene in the Gospel of St. John. The painting represents the extremely dramatic and crucial moment right after Jesus tells his apostles that he knows one of them will betray him.
Every town has a legend, and the mansion, a terrible yet lovely tale, is the one that applies to Silay City, Negros Occidental. Dali, updi niyo ako, nga handurawon ang mga matamis kag matahom nga nagliligal. It has been a silent observer of Emilio Ledesma y Ledesma, Rosario Locsin y Locsin Ledesma, and their daughter Adela's life and times. The mansion once played host to a number of lavish events and celebrations from decades past. Now, it's full with tales and secrets. The Ledesma family was at the pinnacle of their dominance in 1919. They hired the Italian architect Lucio Bernasconi to create the mansion, and it was completed a year later. He eventually created the San Diego Pro Cathedral for their community. The neighborhood later earned the nicknames Museum City and Paris of Negros, thanks to its predominantly European designed structures. Emilio had a lot of responsibility being the patriarch of the Ledesma family's son. After all, according to the 1938 Bacolod City Yearbook, his father was the richest man on the entire island of Negros. Don Pepe contributed significantly to the 250,000 pesos cost of building of Silay's San Diego Pro Cathedral by covering 80% of it. Wow! The patriarchs urged the villagers to contribute the final 20%, claiming that he had not done this to make the church his church. When Don Pepe passed away, the Siervas de San Jose Order of Nuns received his home as a gift, and it was utilized as their convent and school until the late 1950s. In recognition of his contribution, Pope Pius XI awarded him a knight in the Order of Saint Gregory the Great. Emilio has 2 sisters and 5 brothers. The siblings all grew up to be well-known people in the community despite being raised in a decadent and fashionable time. This applies to Purita Calao, spouse of Ledesma's, as well as to the Ledesma Herals, who discovered Grey Spa in Haro Cathedral. Even today, their land holdings still remain. Leonardo de la Rama Locsin, a revolutionary and later the governor of Negros, is the father of Rosario, Emilio's wife. Leonardo V. Locsin, a national artist, is descended from her brother Guillermo, while Alfredo Montelibano Sr., a former governor, and Secretary of National Defense, is the husband of her sister, Corazon. The Senator Jose C. Locsin and the Ambassador Teodoro Locsin Jr. are among Leonardo's nephews and grandnephews. The two clans were revered and well known for their humanitarian tendencies. They were united by a sugar empire and intermarried as was usual among the old Negrense families. Despite their fame and fortune, the family is primarily remembered by the town residents for their humility. Adela, the sole daughter. Adela was brought up to live by strict standards because she was Emilio and Rosario's only child. She had behaved perfectly since she had been taught what was expected of a refined Negros household. This included dressing up every day, whether or not the family was expecting guests in her Sunday best. Adela is remembered by many Silay residents as a woman who found comfort in her own home and rarely left in her senior years. Many of them assume that the one that got away, or heartbreak and a broken promise of a previous love, is to blame. According to legend, Adela fell in love with a nearby distant relative. He belonged to the landed gentry, which is equivalent to today's upper middle class, and was a dentist. He started courting Adela when they were old enough, even though it has never been proven that they started dating. Many of the rumors contend that they may have even made a promise to one another that they would get married. Unfortunately, her parents were never supportive of the union, so she was forced to assume the position of the responsible daughter. She couldn't disobey her parents since she had been taught to be respectable and dignified, even if it meant giving up her happiness. Despite these rumors that she wrote him letters later on proliferated. Fate was still against her when her parents died in the 1950s. According to rumors, Adela had the entire second floor of their home removed so she wouldn't be able to see the dentist's new wife and children who lived on the same street. The dentists have previously been married to another woman. Silay's social life began to dwindle after the war. The life of Adela had known, the only way of living she had ever known, started to vanish all of a sudden. Adela may have chosen to stay in her own home, surrounded by her familiar surroundings in her older years due to her devotion to this way of life. Restoring the mansion. Adela only had one successor, her favorite niece from a relative, and she received all of the family's possessions when she passed away in 2012 at the age of 97. However, her clothing as well as personal items like nightgowns, silk robes, and perfume bottles remained in the mansion. She is one of Negros' best-dressed women, and her attire reflects the progressions of fashion trends from the 30s and 70s. She also left behind journals and volumes that chronicled her life, which she repeatedly wrote so she wouldn't forget. These kinds of tales stoked the imaginations of writers and painters, and before long, the romance became a local fable that added character to the mansion. To preserve the property's rich heritage and architecture, relatives bought it. A heritage advocate named Solomon Locsin is now in charge of the ancestral home, which has been adaptively repurposed as a cafe, bar, and venue for events. The mansion was only a concrete shell when construction began, and the inside decor was an attempt to make it feel like Negrense society in the early 20th century. All of Silay's and the Locsin clan's relics are on display. The mansion quickly evolved into a hub for historical awareness and artistic expression. The Adela Locsin Ledesma Mansion, an ancestral residence, is tucked away behind the public plaza of Silay City, the tiny parish of Negros Island. Balay Puti is another name for the home. Through the epidemic, Balay Puti underwent renovations that gave rise to a new sort of restaurant. On December 3, 2021, Chef Stephen Escalante's Stephens at Balay Puti first opened its doors. Diner is available in Calle Ledesma in Silay City from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. They welcome walk-ins, however, owing to the limited seating, bookings are strongly advised. Although Solomon stated that the second floor or lack thereof will not be touched, he asserts that its absence radiates drama, just as Adela would have preferred. Tamis, matahom, updi nyo ako sa Madason. Life is sweeter in Silay.